Hello, Herlighters. It's Erin Foley back in the booth talking women's sports. Fantastic episode today. Before we jump in, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for everybody that came out this past weekend to Dynasty Typewriter to support a really fantastic comedy show. We're raising all kinds of money for Watch Me Sports Bar. It's the first ever women's sports bar in the state of California. It was so fun. We had a great crowd. So many people bought tickets. They streamed the show. They donated to their crowdfunding link that we had up. And it was just great. It was just super feel good. So if you are in the state of California, head on down to Long Beach, get a beer, watch some women's sports. If you're visiting, I'm telling you, it's a great bar. It's a great atmosphere. And if you have some extra money, go on to the Watch Me website and donate some money for their crowdfunding campaign. And it's super feel good. And just, I'm really glad I had a chance to help in any way I could. Can't wait to go down there and, geek out over women's sports per usual. All right, let's dive into the episode. Today we have Saskia Webber, retired goalkeeper from the U.S. Women's National Team, 99er, part of that epic World Cup team. She also played in the WUSA, our first women's professional soccer league. She's part of the ownership group of the ACFC and currently an NWSL analyst and broadcaster. She's great. We talked about the gold medal game, Emma Hayes' brilliance, her transition from player to coach, and now she's a broadcaster. But I think honestly, one of my favorite parts is when we nerded out about goalies. I am obsessed with goalies. Every time I watch a soccer game, whatever level it is, I'm always focused on the goalkeeping. Probably because I was a goalkeeper in high school. And I know this is not the same level. Obviously, Saskia is a professional, but I loved playing goalkeeper. And that was not always the case. I'll tell you some of the backstory. My family moved to Rhode Island when we were in seventh grade. And when I landed there, I played a lot of basketball and softball, but I didn't play a lot of soccer. And South Kingstown, Rhode Island is just a hub of soccer. Everybody played soccer. They wanted to play, in college and professionally. And I had no feet skills. I couldn't keep up with these women. So I decided, all right, well, I have huge hands. I'm athletic. I'll play goalie. And it was so fun. But I was always, I wasn't starting. I had all these fantastic goalkeepers ahead of me. And then finally it became my time to be a starter on the team. And we're playing, I'll never forget this. We're playing Barrington. That was like our arch rivals. And it was my birthday. And I was so excited. This is my first game I was going to start. And I got onto the field and I panicked. I was so scared. I just remember being so scared. I lost my confidence. I didn't come out of the goal. I didn't, punch balls away. They definitely scored on me. I just was an absolute wreck because that was it. It was my first game. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to let everybody down. All these people in front of me. I'm the last line of defense. I'm going to screw up their college scholarships. I mean, I was just panicked. So halftime comes and the head coach turns to the assistant coach and he was like, okay, you take the team. I'm going to talk to Foley. Foley, the goalie. Literally, that's what they called me. So our coach, just like a really nice dude, and he laid into me as he should. Nothing inappropriate or mean or anything, but he was like, he just gave me the speech that I'll never forget. He's like, you can't be scared as a goalie. There's no one behind you. There's no one behind you. You cannot be scared. You have to go out with full confidence and you have to be the leader and you have to be talking and communicating and you have to run out and get those balls. Every ball is your ball. You have to want every single ball. You cannot play scared. You have to go out there and be, basically dominate the game, take over the game. And he was like, "Are you scared?" I was like, "I'm terrified." And he's like, "You have to get over this. Like you have to go out there and basically essentially not play scared." And I just had this moment with myself where I was like, all right, well, I tried in the first half and I was a nightmare. I was I was the worst. I let my team down. So I have to flip that switch. And I did it. Somehow I was able to, I don't know, get into this killer mindset. And I knew I wasn't going to like play collegiately or play professionally. I just wanted to be the best I could be and not let my team down. But it was a moment that kind of changed, the game for me and also changed I won't say maybe my life, but it was a moment I'll never forget of just dialing in, all these kind of bigger moments I've had on stage or projects I've done or writing or whatever it is. It's like you have to flip the switch. And you can say that about any position, but really, especially with goalkeeping. I mean, you are it. And so that's why I've always just literally been obsessed with goalkeeping. And I'll never forget that moment. And it was really fun to talk to Saskia, who was obviously a professional goalie, about mindset, about what it takes, about, going from one level to the professional level and to be successful. And so it was just a super fun conversation for me. And I know you're going to love her. So let's jump right in. Okay. Gold medal.
I
I'm,
know.
I'm going to admit I didn't see that coming. Did you see that coming? Hit it.
I think there were no expectations. And as an analyst, as somebody we knew what Emma could bring to this team and how she could shape this team. But you're talking about 8 training sessions and 4 games before, not even, like 2 games or something before they left under her. So there were no expectations. I think at the same time, we all know individually and collectively what that group can do. I mean,
Mm.
when you look at whatever you want to call them, the triple threat, if you want to call them the triple latte or the whatever, like or espresso, but we knew if you have a Rodman, a Smith, a Swan, if we knew if you had them clicking, that's like the most dangerous, threesome in the world. And then what's underneath them? I mean, you have a Lavelle, you have Sam Hughes. It's just the players are there, but it was whether they could come together and buy into a new style of playing and implement that as quick as they did.
Okay, here's my question for you. The first half felt like we could have gone into the halftime 7-0. Like we were weathering some. I literally
Oh
was like,
yeah.
how you do it? Like I get really protective of the team, so I go, listen, it's amazing to be here. We exceeded all expectations. Like
Like
I'm
what's the talk?
yeah,
Just
you know what I mean?
you're guaranteed a medal.
You're guaranteed I mean, silver is amazing.
Yeah.
Silver is amazing. I can't believe people are disappointed at silver because
You're
I
like
couldn't.
thinking of what
Yeah,
you're gonna say in your head.
yeah, yeah.
I think that I think that for all fans, for myself included, that first 45, and especially like I'd say about the first 10 or 15,
Oh my
you're
God.
like, you're like, oh my God. Like Brazil is rested, they are coming to play. Like this isn't like, oh my God. And Marta's not even in it. And so, but as it wore on, you saw the US start to kind of implement their play, implement, possession. And that's what I was sitting here saying. I was like, guys, you just got to take that fight and that spark out of Brazil, like slow it down, slow it down. And and then come second half, Brazil is a different team.
That's my question.
Totally different
Saskia,
team.
I was like, what happened in the locker room? They had us on the ropes. It was just some major defending and Alyssa Nair's larger than life hands that and feet and whole body that kept us
Mhm.
in the game, which is it, but it was like a barrage. And I'm thinking, oh my
And
God. And
even
then
right at the end of the first half, the
yeah,
save that which I thought was the save of the game. I know the game and I know the save at the end. Yes, that was a huge save as well. But you with what +1 in the first 45, and that redirect that tip, like, was so big because then you go in down 1-0,
yeah.
and I think then it's a whole different second half. But I think it took the fight out of Brazil. I was surprised. I think even Julie Foudy was talking about it in the broadcast, like different team. Like I thought Brazil would come out like guns ablazing again.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we had them on the ropes. Let's keep the high pressure up. Like we like couldn't even get out of our like defensive third at certain points, and it was just a different team.
I just want to know. I'm always obsessed with like halftime locker room, speeches where, because it's just so fascinating to me when everybody at that level, you could say like, Brazil maybe had a little bit more speed or whatever game it is. Like it's pretty equal when you get to a gold medal match and it's like a toss up of anybody can win. And it just feels like, okay, this is where like the mental part comes in. But it just felt like, and they had us on the ropes. They come back out in the second half. And I literally was like, they're playing right into our hands. Like everyone was just like, like you just said, slow the game down, possession, whatever. The barrage went away. We then collected ourselves, and I'm just wondering, did they run out of gas? Like what?
And
Why?
that's the art. That's the $1,000,000 question, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're a little gassed, you say, if you're Brazil, you say, listen, we're going to come out second half the same way we came out first half. We're going to put them under the gun. You guys that are tired, get to the 60th minute mark, and we're going to make some subs, and so just give me the rest that you have right now. Let's try to get a goal in here. It was effective in the first half. That's not what happened. Like they came out and we're just like, okay, well, it's almost like mentally they're like, well, that didn't work. We didn't score. So let's play their game.
I couldn't listen, I'm just like I love soccer. I watch a lot of soccer. I have no, the level of which you speak from the coach is beyond my pay grade. But just from like the naked eye, I'm like, well, this is great. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I was stunned.
They played into what the US wanted.
Yeah.
Second half. And
I don't get it. I don't get
it. Great for us.
Yeah, but to your point when they're like, okay, well, that didn't work. But the thing about it is
it did work.
It did work. I mean, it was like
they just didn't
going
score.
off the post. It was like they had like, I just don't understand. Like I just am so, I'm just confused. I was so confused. I was so elated. But at the end of the day, I was like, is Brazil going to come under like a ton of heat? Like, is the Emma Hayes, like, which we'll get into next question, but like the pain cave, like, did that pay off? I'm just baffled how they played the second half.
Yeah. I think some of that comes down on a manager. I mean, a lot of it comes down on a manager because I can't imagine they went in halftime and said, okay, we're gonna slow this down, Brazil, and we're gonna try to play a little more possession. That's playing into the US's hands. Maybe we'll get like a quick transition moment or something. I'm like, no, you come out and you're like high press, high press, high press. I don't care if you throw up on the field or pass out, we'll sub you.
Yeah.
So if you were tired, give that last 10 minutes or 15 minutes of gas and then get subbed. And so that's how it happened. And but that's team sports. And I wasn't in the locker room. It worked out.
So. What I'm saying is, do you think we should coach the Brazil team? Because I feel like there's a window here. Can you imagine? I'd be like, all right, go out there and go get them.
Portuguese?
Like, I don't speak Portuguese and I have no tactical. Hey, go out there and score.
Run,
run.
Do it again.
Do you think, oh my God. Yeah. So back to the earlier question, I just thought like my goal was like get out of the round of 16. Like just getting into a medal contention was my goal for the team because it's been so disheartening and out of position with Vlatko and all that stuff. But do you, as a 99er, as a professional, as a World Cup winner, you've done it all, do you feel like those players just have like gold medal mentality and that's like part of the DNA?
I believe that this is a special group and they remind me of us back in 99. And I think that being with them in New Jersey before they left, we had a closed door lunch and really sat down. Emma just brought the generations together, which nobody's done like in the past 15 years, maybe even I haven't done that. And I thought that it was like, Emma's such a big supporter of the 99ers, but making them know where they came from in a sense and really being part of that sorority and kind of what's not on the line, but what they're fighting for. They're fighting for each other. And I think that came across and we saw that. Like they had that never give up mentality. They had that, it can always happen. It doesn't matter if it's in the 103rd minute or in extra time. in penalty, it doesn't matter, we can win. And it always reminds me of like the Yankees, like back early 2000s, and like with Jeter and stuff. Like you knew in the bottom of the ninth, if it was 8-1, the Yankees might win. Like,
Yeah.
You always felt that. You were like, I'm not leaving this game because the Yankees could win. It doesn't matter if it's 8-1. And I felt that they knew that. They play for each other. They have that never give up mentality. They were getting bombarded and under the gun in the first half of that final, but you felt it. You're like, doesn't matter. Even if Brazil scored, you were just kind of like, you believe. And I think they have that. And whether it's the youth and, a lot of them never being in those big positions before, like 9 players on the team and never been in Olympics. And
Unbelievable.
yeah, I think, but it's that faith in each other and being bought in so quickly to Emma. I think that's part of it as well. And they realize, get one game at a time, one step at a time, and we're fighting for each other. All of them, we're fighting for each other.
Yeah, it was
It was
amazing.
obvious.
Yeah, I just, every single game, even with like lower expectations, like you just
But
saw the camaraderie
But I
and the
think that it's
joy.
funny because
Yeah.
we say lower expectations. It's always the U.S. women's team, right? So there's always
No, true. I
there's
just don't
always
want
a
to get my heart
no,
crushed.
but there's always a certain level of expectation that goes
Yeah.
unsaid, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can't get out and around this. What? Even though you're taking it one game at a time, even though you're a young team, you're still the U.S. national team. And I think the feeling that you had watching this team, I know the feeling that you had or that I had watching this team was totally different than the World Cup.
Oh my God, yes.
Like totally
Yes.
different. Like the World Cup, I was like, oh my God.
They seemed
Like,
miserable. They absolutely seemed miserable. They felt like they had the weight of the world on themselves. There was no joy. It
right.
was hard to
It
watch.
was hard to watch. And listen, I didn't know that team very well. I know individuals on that team, but again, it was that disconnect between myself as a 99er, my crew as a 99er, the disconnect. If I felt that, I'm sure the fans felt that. And, I love these girls and they've paved the way and they've won World Cups and stuff like that. But like, who you didn't feel like they were playing for each other. And maybe
Yeah.
they were and they said they were, but the feeling was different. The fight was different. The passion was different. And that's why it needed to change. It should have changed before that, but that's why it needed to change. And you're seeing the results of that.
Yeah. So I want to go back to this moment that is low key blowing me away of when you said there was a closed door luncheon between the 99ers. So talk to us about that. I happened to, I flew in for the game against Mexico U.S. women's national team right before, they went to the Olympics. And of course, 99ers is going to be, one of my all-time favorite teams in any sport. And I want to talk about the specific 99er celebration, which we'll get to. But talk to me about that, that closed door meeting that, that Emma Hayes went out of her way to combine those teams. I think that's brilliant.
Well, I mean, it started from that whole day, but then we got to practice. And so we went on the field and we had like talks with the team at practice, individual talks. Like I was hanging out talking with, Nair and Murphy and the keepers, and had a good talk with Jane Campbell, who kept calling me ma'am, which was hilarious. And I'm like, stop calling me ma'am. Like, I know you, like,
Oh
please
my God,
stop
that's
calling.
amazing.
But
What
yes,
are we,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
80?
I know. Yes, ma'am. But it was so cute. But it was like real conversations. And then that moved over to, we got back to the hotel and we had lunch, and the team came in, and it was literally like this 3 hour like lunch and conversation and asking questions,
Mm.
like you had it went from Rose Lavelle asking us to sign the retro jersey and us handing out 99er stuff to just serious questions, like, and what made the difference, and what did it take, and again, it was closed door, but it was so. Then Emma had put together this whole montage of a lineage of the 99ers, even before the 99ers, into the present team, and to let them know what they're fighting for and what they were a part of, and they are a part of, and they're coming into. And we've all talked about that since the 99ers, because we talk every day pretty much, but we said, there's just been a disconnect for decades, like, and And there shouldn't be. We should be here, and you should be able to reach out to me whenever you want and say, hey, Sask, what do you think about this? Like I said, I had a really good talk with Jane about what it meant to be a reserve and how it's difficult and emotionally difficult, and understand that, and so those are important things. And we're all
Huge.
part of a sorority, and Emma made that very clear, and is a huge part of us now too. I consider her part of our sisterhood, and like after the gold medal, she's on video sending videos to us as a group and stuff, and those connections need to be had. And it should never be about, well, that's that team, we're us. We're all part of the same team and the same family. And that was not there for I would say since 99.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of shocking, I
Yeah.
guess. I just feel like, well, I mean, I think this is what
I mean, it
separates
was,
Emma
I think,
Hayes from every other coach, right?
absolutely. I mean, I would say I wasn't part of those early 2000 teams. Like I had stopped playing for the US team at that point, but I would say once the changing of the guard came, once like the Foudies and Mia in the beginning of the 2000s like retired and stepped down, then there was this huge void. And I'll tell you, I've been in places before where somebody had said to me, and I won't say names, is like, I'm so sick and tired of hearing about the 99ers. And I looked at them, I said, then win a World Cup. Like, that's the
That's a
answer to you. I was like, well, there's an answer for you. Win a World Cup. So,
wow.
but that mentality is ridiculous. Instead of being like, guys, we haven't won. What made the difference? I'm so sick and tired of hearing about you. I'm like, that's where that spoke volumes to me of why there was such a disconnect for so long.
That's yeah. That's
I don't care. I can say
yeah.
whatever I want. It's true. You know who you are.
Well,
Maybe don't. There were some cocktails on, but
but I'm saying like that is why you lose, right? It's like when you have these amazing mentors, the 99ers literally put everything on the map. It was like one of the greatest teams of all time. And to not use you, to not like, I can imagine that conversation you had with Jane Campbell, it's probably life altering. So you have all this leadership and this knowledge and experience, and to not use it and to not connect into it, well, that's a way to lose. You
well,
have all
and
this special sauce waiting for you, and it just, yeah, I mean, Emma Hayes, she
no, but it's
just
true. And like you go back to the conversation with Jane, after I saw the medal ceremony and I saw everything, and even the photos, I know Jane didn't have a medal, and I know what that feels like because I was an alternate, and I know, like, no matter how much a part of the team you feel that you are, that's a big deal. Like, and so and I know what she's going through, and I told her that ahead of time. I said, listen, it's not easy, and I know you guys love each other and are going to make, but if you're struggling with it, like, verbalize it, because I go, it's not easy. And it was really different from when I was an alternate. Like, I wasn't even allowed to be around the team. Like, the four of us had to like train at Clemson University while the team was in Athens, Georgia, and we would come in for games, and like, so there was a big disconnect. But it there's emotional hurdles to get over with all of it. um and especially when you see the other alternates get pushed in, so like Corey Bethune and stuff like that got to play. Corey gets a medal, she got rostered. So I know it sounds trivial, but it's not. And
it
so
doesn't sound trivial at all.
if you have somebody to bounce stuff like that off of, it's important. So yes, it's, and I'm not saying we didn't win this medal for them, but as much as we can help and be there to support, and even generations after me, like, we should all be a sorority. That's what we are.
Oh, absolutely. But I remember talking to you years ago and you told me as alternates you don't get medals, and the rage I felt, it's still now present day rage.
Mhm.
It is mind blowing. You are part of the team. You are part of the DNA, like all of it. Like one of the most iconic moments of the 99ers is your red, white, and blue hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like I, I, I can't even, it's very hard for me to get my head around that. Like in coaches don't get medals either, right?
No, I thought I saw Emma with a medal. So
I have to double check
I've
that.
I've seen her in some photos with a medal. At first, I didn't see her and Denise and the other staff with medals, and then I was like, "Do coaches get medals?" But then I saw her in some photos, like biting a medal, whether that was hers or not. But I saw her biting one, so maybe they do. But it is mind-boggling because I mean, I get the IOC's, I get their part of it. Like technically you aren't on the roster, but technically you are. I mean,
But
like
you are on the roster. I mean, you're part
you're
of the
doing
team.
every single thing that everybody else has to do. Um, and because somebody doesn't get hurt, like it's ridiculous. Basically, the roster should be bigger,
Yeah.
and there should be no alternates, in my opinion.
Oh,
In
absolutely. Of
yeah.
course, there should be no alternates. It's one team. You sit, whether you play or not, you're part of the team. And also the mental strength you have to have as an alternate. It's like an understudy. Like every day you have to prepare. You have no idea what's going to happen. So it feels like I'm going to call the IOC. It feels like you should get two medals, one for being on a roster and one for having the
For
the
dealing
the
with
mental to
it.
dealing with it.
Two special ones. There
It
you
should be
go.
two huge ones, like the Flava Flav ones. You should just be getting the
But
big
knowing
ones.
Emma and knowing
Yeah.
that team and seeing what I saw, I know they embrace that, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that that any alternate felt as much included, and I did too in '96. But I mean, it still sits with me to this day. Like I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, it's just something, you just as a fan, you don't know, right?
yeah.
And so it's just interesting to bring it up and talk about because it's an aspect where you're like, that doesn't even make any
Yeah,
sense
and
at
you
all.
can't go on the podium. So you don't
Uh,
step up on the podium. So you're there, you're on the field. Like when in '96, I was on the field holding everybody's cameras, taking pictures of them on the podium, which was a horrifying experience for me. But I love those guys. And so it was, but it was like nobody ever knew how devastating that was and how hard that was for me. There were some tears, that got shed. And yeah. So there's yeah, two medals. There you go.
Two medals. Well, I'm gonna call Flava Flav and get him on it because he seems to
Yeah.
be just, I don't know,
Flavor Flav
now
will send her like all the alternates a
like
big old
huge.
clock medal.
Yeah. This needs to be brought to everybody's attention. That's for sure. All right, one more question about Emma Hayes. When she was hired, I was thrilled again from a
Mhm.
non-professional standpoint, just because of her record and she just seems so affable and all of it. Um, can we give her a lifetime appointment? Because I've never seen so much success so quickly. It's mind blowing.
you know, um, as long as she wants to stay is fine
Right.
with me. It's up to her.
Had you met her before? Had any interactions before?
I had not. But Denise Reddy and I went to college together. So
Okay.
we, she was my center back, and so I know Denise really, really well. But I had not met Emma before. I feel like I have, though. I feel like I've been around her my whole life because that's how awesome she is. Like literally, that's how much she makes you like I'd play for her.
Yeah. I
I mean, I'd
ran.
come out of
Yeah.
retirement, but I tried to do a TikTok video last night for something, and I had to ice, so it's not gonna happen. Like
Some of those TikTok videos get very aggressive. I totally hear you. And you're like, I can't do that, nor do I want to. Thank you.
no.
Um,
I'm like,
I
oh.
I was like 10 feet away from her randomly, when I flew in for the game. My friend Jackie's like a super fan and knows a couple of you guys in the 99ers, and she was like, "Hey, we're all hanging out at some hotel in Jersey." I was like, "All right." And my friend Carrie and I were like half in the bag in Manhattan drinking, and I was like, "Oh, just get in a cab, see Jackie," and then ran into you at the bar. And Emma Hayes was like, I don't know. I thought she would be like in bed. You know what I mean? It was like but she's out with her family. Her mom was there, like
Mhm.
two other friends just having beers. And I was just like, she does have this essence about her that it's like this, like, kind of like everybody in huge hug. She had so much warmth, and that I didn't even meet her, but I just was
Mhm.
like, you could feel this like
Because she's also
presence.
there to enjoy life.
Yeah.
Like she's enjoying this as well. It's something that she's always wanted to do. Her father wanted her to do it. Like she's living her dream. But you're going to enjoy it as you're living it too. Get your job done, but
Yeah.
don't let it pass you by at the same time. Don't be like, oh man, I don't know. I mean, that was a great time, but basically I was up every morning at 5 and in bed at 5, and all I did was put my head down. Like it's not a way to do this either.
Do- I love that you said that because I think that transfers over, right? It must have transferred over because the joy that like you could tell even on the sidelines, like she was coaching nonstop and just she has this infectious energy and excitement. And Vladko, and I know he's like specialist and he's doing great with Kansas City and stuff. It was so cut off, and it's just a different style. But
When you have a coach you want to play for, that
yeah,
you don't want to disappoint, and I don't mean being scared or like, oh God, if I don't play well, they're never going to talk to me again, like, or they're never going to play me again. I mean that you respect that you're like, and you have a team that you feel that way about, then good things happen. I mean,
yeah,
I loved playing for Tony, and I never wanted to let him down and disappoint him because of what he meant to me. And I know my team felt that way as well. And so you see that in Emma, you see that her joy, it's infectious.
yeah, it is. And you have this unique perspective of being, world-class athlete, goalie, and then coaching UCLA goalies. How was that like? Talk to us about that transition between player and then coach.
I mean, I took a long hiatus from soccer for a while, and then out here, like in LA, like slowly got pulled back into it a little bit. Hey, will you do a private? Hey, will you do this and everything? And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And then I was coaching club for a little bit, and then Amanda Cromwell called, and she's just like, will you come coach UCLA? Which for me was like the level I want to coach at, or
Yeah.
would have wanted to coach at. And unfortunately, I was there during COVID, like it was started right before COVID started. So
Oh crap.
I didn't get the same like experience, but to coach at that level, to be with Sam, to be with Amanda, and just who we grew up playing together, so there was just this, and playing on the US team together, so there's we were sisters, so I loved it. And I loved going to practice every day. And I think first of all, the UCLA facilities and like everything,
Yeah.
it was awesome. I'm like in Westwood. I'm like, this is great. This is life, if I'm not like, I loved it. And then, obviously Amanda and them left, and I remember walking, and they took the job in Orlando. So they walked in there, like, sit down. I was like, oh God, what'd I do? And she's like, we're leaving. I'm going to take the job for Orlando. And I was like, I'm not moving to Florida.
Yeah.
That was the first thing out of my mouth. She goes, Saskia, no, you're not. But then, like, hand in hand with that, turned around with Angel City, and then what is what I always wanted to do. And they called for me to be, their analyst for Valley Sport West. And I was just like, oh my God, this is what I always want to do. But when I retired, only Julie did that, and a
Yeah.
couple people, because first of all, there weren't that many games broadcast, and if there were games, they were U.S. national teams game, and Julie had to, market and all that, and
Yeah.
so there was no place to do it, and so
Yeah.
I literally thought that part and that dream in my life had totally passed me by. Like I'm like, now you have all these other retired players, they're gonna pitch them and stuff, and then I got the call, and here I am. So
All right, we're jumping ahead. I'm putting a pin
I'm
in
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry.
No, because I have some nerdy goalie questions, and then we're going to jump right into ACFC and commentating. You're getting ahead of yourself. You've read my email. Here's all right. As a player, you're at the highest level of your game, arguably, in the realm of all the great goalies we've ever had. When you're coaching a goalie, like I feel like it must be difficult at a time where they're not matching your level of like how do you coach someone that doesn't match your level of like skill and attitude and like is that
Well, that's two questions.
yeah,
That's two
sorry.
different
That was
things.
17 questions wrapped into
No, no,
one.
no. It's just two totally different things. The level isn't the problem, because it's my job as a coach to bring their level up, and to educate them and teach them. And I always, you work with what you have, and you heighten the athletic ability and a natural goalkeeping ability that a goalkeeper has, and then you tweak things. And especially at that level, you tweak things like I love working with Lauren Brisky, LB, who's playing pro in Sweden now and stuff, and was with San Diego. And just they were sponges. And I still talk to my keepers today. I still talk to LB, her mom, and everything. Whenever she has a question, she can call me. That but she had that mindset, and she
Mm,
had, and so did Adalia, so did Hannah, and so did some of the other ones. The struggle with what you asked was the mindset.
mm.
It's hard to teach mindset. And so it's hard to teach. Not everybody wants to be a pro goalkeeper. Not everybody wants to, like, has the dreams that LB had or that Adalia has and stuff. And so, and then they're also away from home and they're at college for the first time. So, people fall through that they end up not wanting to do that or not want to give as much effort. And I mean, give me the effort when you get out the practice and stuff like that. But you can see that as a coach, you can see the difference and that mentality, and I'm not the person that will scream and yell at you to try to get that mentality out of you. Like, I'll make a drill challenging, make it competitive, and see if I can bring that out of you through the sport itself. But I'm not going to yell at you.
Do you think that's the difference between what it takes, on a, collegiate level, semi-pro level to get up to, World Cup and, Olympics, to get up to that professional top peak performance? If every, would you say it's this mindset that separates players?
There's you have to be able to push yourself. You have to be able to flip that switch yourself. If you rely on somebody else to constantly do that for you, you're never going to rise to the top of the sport. And that comes from, I think, from back in the day when there was no place to train, when I had to figure it out myself. Like, how am I going to keep myself fit? How am I going to keep myself sharp? Um, while I'm not with the US team, or, I'm home from playing pro in Japan or whatever. How am I going to do that? And figuring out the ways to do that. That's a mental, it's very easy to say, hey, I'm going to sit on the beach in Jersey or in Hawaii or something like that in between stuff. And I'll go run some miles and then I'll go back and they'll get me fit. Don't ever think that it's not my job to bring you in fit.
Mm,
You got to want to. You got to come into camp fit. You got to come into preseason fit. And then, because if I have to spend the first 2 weeks of preseason getting you fit, well, now we're going to start games. So I can come in fit, then I can work on, like, tweaking your sharpness, your handling, your footwork, and everything like that. But give me something to build off of. And that comes from mentality away from like structured training. And I always say that to kid, what are you doing when you're not here? Listen, I don't want, like, especially for a kid in club or something, I don't want you spending 6 hours a day every waking moment doing goalkeeping when you're not, and then you have structured practice. There's also too much. You're going to burn out and hate it, but you got to find that happy medium, and you have to have that desire within you to get better without me telling you how to get better.
yeah.
You have to.
And okay, here's the $1 million question.
Mhm.
Um, you're going into battle. You need one goalkeeper. Is it you've got Scurry, you've got Solo, you've got Nair. Who do you choose and why?
Come on. Like, myself. No, just kidding. I choose Bry. And the reason I would choose Bry is because, number one, look, they're all great goalkeepers.
They're all
Hands
it's a ridiculous question, but
they're all great.
yeah,
They're all
yeah.
great goalkeepers. So my answer comes down to, because of my relationship with Bry and how well we trained together and how
Yeah.
well we pushed each other, and we did it for 10 years, and so that would be my choice. My choice is, like, who's going to elevate my game, who's open and receptive for me elevating their game. We get along, we push each other to be the best when we're in training, and so it would be Bry.
Well, I thought that would be your answer because you two were, teammates, and again, like, you made her better, she made you're better. That's why you need 17 more medals. It just, for me, I kind of caught the end of her career,
Mm-hmm.
just age and availability to watch literally you guys play on a TV. It was so few and far between. So I just had more exposure to, Hope Solo and Nair. But when I'm looking back on that, those were our three starters. I'll just say starters. I can't believe how lucky we are to have those three. Like I thought, my God, we're never gonna, we're never gonna get better than Scurry. And then Solo comes along and she was fantastic.
And then
And then I
Naeher sits
thought,
behind Solo
yeah.
forever.
And then
And
when
like,
Nair came on, I felt like, there was all this talk of like, maybe we should have given Nair more time, because Hope was
you
at like
should have,
monster
and you
level.
should have, and you should have
Yeah.
given Nair more time. And that's one of the worst things about goalkeeping is, like I have like just under 50 caps, but I was rostered for probably about 200 games.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and back then you didn't play all the time. So it was just like, maybe 2 tournaments a year or whatever, a friendly here and a friendly there. So it was few and far between. Yes, you should have given Nair more time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It just felt
but
like we didn't even know her. That transition, I was like, oh my God. Like I remember being freaked out, being like, wait, who is Alyssa? Who is Alyssa Nair? And the shoes to fill of Hope Solo,
but
what
but
felt
not
crazy.
trying,
Yeah.
but also for Nair not trying to be Hope. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and two totally different people off the field, on the field.
Yeah, they're literally, they couldn't be more opposite. Opposite.
There was a little bit of a pause there on the field, but I think Nair fits.
Yeah.
You have somebody. What you want is your defense and your midfields and your forwards to play with somebody behind them that they don't even think about, that they have so much confidence in, that they know is going to come up big. She's a gamer. She comes up with huge saves in games. She scores penalty kicks, which I don't understand that, but I mean,
It's mind
I'm
blowing.
proud of her, but the fact that there are 10 other people on the field and your goalkeeper not only has to save the shots, but also has to score a goal. Like, I'm like, does she not have enough pressure on her as is? But good on her that she could step up and do it. I think for her to step into those shoes and do what she has done, and she was under a microscope. It was like, well, you're not Solo. Well, you're not Solo.
Yeah.
But then underneath her, you have some great goalkeepers as well, and you have a Campbell, and you have a Murphy and
Yes.
stuff, and you got
They're
to get them.
great.
Got to get
Yeah.
them time as well.
Yeah.
So,
I just have to, this wasn't planned, but we just have to discuss this. Do you
mhm.
feel like when Nair came out of the goal for the first time to shoot a penalty kick, I almost just had a coronary. I had two thoughts. One, she's so badass, I don't even know what to do with myself. And two,
Right,
if I'm a player and I
ice
see my
cold.
goalkeeper
I'm
going to get a PK, I'm going, I need to practice harder to
Thank
get
you.
on that line.
Thank you. This is my whole point. My whole point is you're asking somebody, she has enough, like, to deal with penalty kicks as a goalkeeper yourself. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. Reading the player or knowing where the player goes. Like, this is what you're doing while the other goalkeeper is in making a save. Not saying, where am I going to put my PK, upper 90, lower 90, whatever I got to do, blah, blah, blah. So if I'm a field player and I'm not in the top 5 of PK takers, but my keeper is, like,
Right?
I'd be like, it's like taking free throws. I'd be like, this is all I'm doing.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you said that. I'm not shaming the players while I eat a burrito and watch this game, but I'm just saying, if I'm a field player, I'm like, I got to get my shit together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How can your coach look at you and be like, oh, so and so, you're going to take a PK? No, but Nair will. I'd be like, yeah, coach, I'm ready to go.
I would stay 7 hours after practice so Nair wouldn't have to
have to
take
take a PK. I swear. And I wonder, this is interesting to me. I wonder if that'll change. And I wonder if with this new crew, with Emma going like, look, you guys need to step up, because she's already stepping up. And look, if we go through the longest PKs ever and Nair has to take a PK at the end, fine. We know she can. But the fact that your whole entire existence is being skillful with your feet, and she's got to now do your job and her job, is I wouldn't be happy with it as a coach. I wouldn't be. I'm like, where's the disconnect here? I don't want her worrying about this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Have you ever talked to her about that? Like, does she have a personality that's like, oh, I'm gonna? To me, she just seems like reserved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, if I got to do it, I'll do it. If I, nobody else, like, and obviously this is something that you practice. This is something.
Yeah.
So how how is Naeher in the top 5 of PK takers? How? Good on her. She takes a great PK, but she shouldn't have to. She
I'm
shouldn't have to.
so glad we're talking right now because I've had no one to talk to about this. I just scream. I go, I don't like,
If
I'm
I was
amazed,
like,
but so like blown away. Yeah.
if this was, let's say UCLA or something,
Yeah.
I would turn to Sam and Amanda and be like, why does my keeper have to take a PK?
Yeah.
And it would have never happened. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
somebody's like, why aren't the field players better than my keeper at this? Like,
It's really truly mind blowing.
it's like watch Nair come up and take a free kick from outside the box, like a direct free kick and bend it into the upper 90. I'm like, so apparently you don't need anybody else on the field, just Nair.
She's literally like cutting the pitch before like you just
I'll take the
her in
corner kick.
every she's doing corners, free kicks. Oh my gosh. Just like putting the cleats on everybody, just stretching everybody out.
Yeah.
Just like got like literally every job. Then she goes and puts the coach's hat on. I can't.
I totally believe that that will change. And the reason I believe that that will change is because you have players now that want to play for each other. And you have players that want to play for, that want to step up, that want to get the ball at the end of the game. Like that, that, hey, coach, give me the ball. So I think you have more of that mentality now and playing with joy instead of playing with fear and saying, well, I'm not that good at PK, so I don't want to take one. I'd be like, shit, give me the ball.
Yeah. I yeah, that moment I literally was like, this is one of the most insane sports moments. And it happened repeatedly,
It kept
you know?
happening. Yeah.
I love that playing with joy. I really feel like that is the special sauce. I think that's the special sauce in life. Like even
Mhm.
when I do stand up, and it truly is the thing of like when I'm having fun, they're having fun. It's just getting this mentality of like tapping in that this can be fun. That's what I think that the ultimate challenge is, giving yourself permission to have fun while you're under all the stress, while the stakes are so high. But look
Yeah.
at the outcome.
Well, it
It's
also loosens
incredible.
you up.
Yeah.
You play with freedom and listen, they know what the stakes are. They know what the pressure is putting on that crest. And but at the same time, if you can enjoy it, you're going to play looser and you're going to play with more flow. And if you're not running around worried to make a mistake and everything, so we saw what happened. Gold medal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, I love that perspective. Yeah, I'm writing down. I just wrote down playing with joy. And that's what I'm going to do every day of my life. Well, I'm going to try. Okay. ACFC and commentating. I love this for you. I think, I got season tickets when they just, and there was a whisper of a team. I've talked about this on the podcast before. It's one of my favorite experiences of going to a game, seeing a game, the atmosphere, everything is amazing. But then seeing your face on the big screen, that was just like, I'm like, oh my God, it was just so fun. So how did this come about? Did the ACFC sort of investment piece come before the commentating? Did it all
Oh
kind
yeah.
of coalesce at the same time?
The investment came 2 years before or whatever
Okay.
it was. And Julie Foudy reached out to the 12 of us because there are 12 of us that are invested together. And 12, 13, 12. And was just like, hey, you guys want to own a team? And we're like, okay, like Foudy calls, you answer. And so and so and then it kind of morphed. It came into like I didn't know Julie Ehrman, I didn't know those guys and stuff. And so getting to for them to know me and my personality and getting and back and forth and then starting to do things for them. We're very present at the games and when they need us in the community. And literally one day in the first season, halfway through that, I think they had signed their contract with Bally Sport West. And this is actually funny. So I get a call from Jen Pransky and she's just like, hey, Sask, would you want to fly to Florida and broadcast game, do the analyst? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. So I'm like, yes, yes. And so I'm like, okay, so they're playing against Orlando, right? This is so they're playing against Orlando. This is how much I know about broadcasting at the time. And I'm like calling Sam. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be in Orlando, because she wasn't coaching with them anymore. And I'm like, can't wait to see you and everything. So I get to LAX and I'm looking at my airport and I'm getting on a flight to Fort Lauderdale. And I'm like, how far is Fort Lauderdale from Orlando? And I'm like, why am I going to Fort Lauderdale? Come to find out, I wasn't going to the game. I was going to a studio in Fort Lauderdale to call the game off the screen. And I'm like, oh. So needless to say, I love my job. It's not as glamorous as everybody thinks. Like
Yeah.
I think people think number one, a hell of a lot of work goes into it. And
Yeah.
I've learned that over the past 2.5 years, and like my prep and how to do boards and everything. And I know I'm speaking Chinese to people right now, but it's not just, hey, Saskia, you know soccer, go and talk about it while they're
Well,
playing.
talk us through it. What goes into it?
It's just not like that. Like you have to do your homework. You have to, you're not covering this. Well, I cover Angel City the most. So, but even when I'm not, like, you have to know what's going on in the other teams. You have to study, you have to watch past games, you have to know the players, you have to know what's going on, you have to know their strengths and their weaknesses. So, you have to know the team's like the philosophy. You have to be able to look at that game and not just be a fan, and really look back and say, okay, so now they move from a 4 back to a 3 back, but so and so is wide and running the flanks. They want to get her isolated, but that's not working because she's up against so and so, Madison Curry on the other side, and so that's holding her back. And like, so you have to. It's not just like, oh, you're not a fangirl.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not just like, oh my God, that was a great pass. What a goal. Like,
Yeah.
and the biggest question is to anybody, it's the why. Why was it a good goal? Like, what happened? What was the effect of what happened? Like, and so those things are so important. And I've learned, like, you have to change your delivery. You have to change how you speak. Sometimes people are repetitive and they use the same things. You have to get that out. I have a coach. I work with a coach. Like, seriously, break down my games, and like the
Oh
best in
my
the
God,
business.
that's awesome.
Like, you have to be ask I have to be committed to this. And I think some people feel that, oh, okay, yeah, I'll roll in and be an analyst. They don't last very long. And then they also realize the amount of work that goes into it all week. Like right now, I'm like got my books out and I'm studying for the game on Sunday, and I have everybody preps differently, but you have to figure that out, and you have to be open to be taught. You can't sit there and be like, well, I was a world champion, I know soccer, I don't need anybody to tell me anything, because it's just not. That's ridiculous. um
But
so, and I
the
love it.
coach, yeah. I mean, all right, sorry. My brain is buzzing right now. I have follow-up
Mhm.
questions. First of all, it's just so cool because it feels like this full circle moment that I'm having of like your kick-ass goalkeeping and your mindset and your mentality is just transferred right over, this work ethic and this mentality and this like championship DNA. Now you're bringing that to your real life. You're bringing it to the commentating. And what a cool moment for all of that to be coming together. Like you're holding up playbooks and you're like jacked up about it. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I get nervous. Like I used to, like I get nervous, and I know, like, I'm not always clean, and sometimes I'll stutter, and sometimes I have to like get in and out of a comment, and and I have a coach. And like, yes, everybody, I have like a coach. I have class like once a week, and I sit here and I go over my games and we talk about it, and I have notebooks full of like my notes, and I have certain things I have to focus on this weekend. And but again, like I'm saying, if you're not ready to make that commitment to it, do not go into this thinking I just know soccer and I can say it. And because there's certain words to use on your ins and your outs. It's serious. And I wanted to be. I think when my coach said to me, like, because she literally does everybody, like NFL, like stuff like that, and she was just like, either this is something that you're committed to and like really want, or you just think you're a world champion, you can just roll with it. And I'm like, I
Mm,
absolutely don't think that. And I want this. I want to be known for being able to being able to be a good analyst, a great analyst, as much as I was known for playing soccer, because I can't, and being a 99er, because I can't have a career in this if all I'm like, well, I'm a 99er. Like that should
yeah.
open every door. It doesn't work that way. So,
That's awesome. Well, I mean, you have the right mentality and that's why you're good at it. When I'm listening to, you guys call games, it happens so fast and it is such a skill. And to have a coach, of course, is invaluable. I mean, I work with
mhm.
just recently in the last like couple months, my partner's a life coach. So I work with like not her. Obviously, she life coaches me for free every day. I should probably pay her. But I work with a coach like
Yeah.
every week just for life. Like I wish I could work with a coach every single day, but to have a coach that makes the most sense to me. Of course you need to be coached. This is a new
Oh, it's so funny
career.
because I mean, Jill's called everything, and like for her to sit there with me, and like I'm breaking down something, we're going over how I broke something down, and then she says, "Well, do it like this," and it's just like boom, 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 and I'm just like, of course, like
Well, you're just learning. I mean,
yeah, but
but how, yeah.
it's fun, and you have to make the commitment to it, and I love it, and I love that Angel City has like the belief in me. I mean, I don't do I play by play. Mark blows me away. Play by play is like a whole different beast. I mean, like that those guys, maybe one day I'll be able to do play by play, but I don't know. Like the amount of information they have and everything. And I do too, but it's just a different style. Like he sets me up and I'm the analyst and everything. But for Angel City to make that belief in me and allow me to learn, I think that's the biggest thing. They've allowed me to grow instead of saying, okay, well, you know, you're pretty raw, you were kind of a fangirl in this first season, but we know you're, you know, they've been like, well, we know that you're growing and we're gonna stick with you, which is huge because this is my second act, you know, and it's just like that kind of goes indicatively with who Angel City is. I think like, you know, they're going to help uplift past players, past athletes, and they're going to stick with me, and they've stuck with me, and that's been huge. And from where I am from now, from 2.5 years ago, is just totally different.
Oh, I absolutely love this. I mean, it really is even just like on just to be a season ticket holder and to see their mission statements and their outreach to the community. It doesn't shock me at all. You know, what's kind of like the number one? Do you have something that like you just didn't expect that kind of unraveled in the last couple 2.5 years of commentating?
The camaraderie, like the friendships I've made and the new people I've been around, like Lori Lindsay, like Jill Loyden, you know, Jordan Angeli, like Anna Whitty, like I have like all these new friends that are, you know, just as immersed in soccer and stuff. And like, I love them to death. And I love like, and you know, JP, I mean, I get the call with JP got the camera called my games. Like, it's the craziest
So
thing. Like
cool.
the first time I called a game with JP, I was like, oh my God, I'm calling a game with JP. you know, and so and just kind of to rekindle those old friendships, even when I see the guys when we're around and they're doing MLS and Tony Miola is there and everything. It's a whole family within itself, and that's been really incredible. And now I have all these new friendships, which is really great to me, and they're
So
all
awesome.
within the soccer community. I know it sounds corny, but it's true.
It's not corny at all. It's like you do what you love and you put all that hard work and you're a champion. Plus, we're not even we don't have time for it. Oh, the survival of all these, pre NWSL leagues. You guys just paved the way for everything. But then, full circle to come back and use all your expertise and mentality to commentate on something you love. Like it makes perfect sense to me. But it's just really cool to get this like inside scoop of what you have to go through, to call the games. That's
Oh
so
yeah, and
unique.
everybody does. Like I sat there in the Jersey game after, and we had this huge conversation with Shannon Box about like, we both work with the same coach. She just started now and stuff, and what she's going through and stuff because she does something totally different than I do. She does the desk, and she does the desk at halftime and pregame, which is totally different than what I do. I'm I've got my boards out and I'm calling games. She doesn't do that. She doesn't make boards. She doesn't sit there with that. So it's just interesting to bounce those off. But again, to have that sisterhood and have that camaraderie come full circle again, where you're kind of like after you retire, you're kind of like off on your little island and everything like this, and you're living your life and you see people during reunions. But like Angel City brought all that back for me.
That's that's great. I mean, also too, it just feels like the Emma Hayes, connecting all these generations and then the Angel City. I'm just fired up for you. I've been, such a huge fan of you personally and professionally. And it just feels like you're entering this next awesome chapter of your life and using all your experience. So
And by the way, guys, I get nervous as hell because I'm like, it's a year-to-year contract. And like you sit here going like, well, is the next shiny penny going to come up? And I get retired and put out to
you're the shining
I
penny.
know. And then I get put out to pasture and I'm just like, but if I keep working on my craft and if you keep getting as good, then you can be undeniable, right?
Yeah, you're going to be undeniable. And if anything goes south, we're going to coach the Brazil team. It's not a problem.
Yes,
We have a
yes.
backup plan. All right, real quick before before we take off, give us a little, what are your expectations or predictions or just anything? Second half of the NWSL season
Mm.
starts in about another week. It's going to
I'll
be
save some. I
very
gotta save
exciting.
some of this for the call on Sunday. But I will tell you, I'm very interested to see how the Olympics affects the teams,
Mm.
because games in 2 days, Naomi Girma never stepping off the field, little tweaks, little knocks, Washington having 6 players in that final, or some of the teams. What is going to happen? And I'm actually really interested, because when you take an Angel City and you say you had your entire team here, and which
Yeah.
is something I'm going to ask Emma, I mean, I'm going to ask Becky about. You had your entire team here for this Olympic break. So everybody trained. You got to rest people. How is that going to benefit you coming into the second half of the season when, like, certain people might have to. That's a lot of games in a short period of time that Trinity Rodman, that those players played in. How is that going to affect them? And I think we are going to see something. I think we are going to see, maybe some teams aren't going to come back as in sync and as strong as they were.
I
It'll
love
be
it. I
it'll
love
be
it as an
interesting.
ACFC fan. Everybody
Yeah.
get exhausted. You have all these like international players on
And then
Kansas
swoop
City and
right in.
Orlando.
But the
Get,
whole thing,
yeah,
but the beauty of the NWSL is you're never out of it
yeah.
until the very end. And so, even Angel City sitting in 11th, you're only 3 points out of 8th. That's the demarcation line. So it's like, and playing good, making the semifinals in the Summer Cup is the ACFC podcast, apparently. I think it's going to be interesting. It's
Yeah.
going to be a dogfight. That's what I think. I mean, obviously you've got Kansas City and those guys that are just pretty much, they're in, if you want to put it that way. I mean,
I mean,
unless it,
Orlando and Kansas City, they do really look like better. I mean, like a tier above almost everybody else. But then, you get everybody back, you get some new blood, who
Mhm.
knows? But yeah, I love that. It's a great point. Like you really sort of never truly out of it because of the point system. There's a ton of games to be played. The soccer's fantastic. And now we get to hear you calling games. So there we go. Thank you so much for jumping on.
You got it.
So many cool stories. But the biggest takeaway for me, playing with joy, but also the fact that you played your whole career and now you wanted to go into commentating and you're crushing it, and I'm just super happy for you.
Thanks. No, it's like I said, it's a great second chapter, and I'm really excited about it.
Saskia Webber, everybody. A huge thank you to her for making the time. She's so busy. She's flying all over, broadcasting these games, flying to Jersey to celebrate the 99ers. By the way, she did dye her hair red, white, and blue for that 99er celebration against Mexico. You got to Google the photos. It's kind of this iconic photo from the 99ers with her red, white, and blue hair. And then she did it 25 years later. So that was super cool. And when I asked her that goalkeeping question about, Scurry-Naeher or Solo, not shocking that she went with Brie. I totally get that. And for me, I honestly never thought I'd say this, but like I thought I'd always pick Solo. I love Hope Solo. I'd watched her live a whole bunch and she just dominated and took over games. But now I have to say, I think I've changed my mind. I think I'm going with Nair. I mean, I can't believe Nair's trajectory. It's incredible. I mean, she never got enough playing time behind Solo. So to come out from like this epic, shadow of Solo with not enough reps, and to see what she's done on the soccer field. I mean, gold medal, bronze medal, World Cup winner. And also, let me just say this, last year's World Cup, which I know we unceremoniously got bounced out round of 16, she kept us in every single game, let alone the PKs. I mean, to go from goalie to come back out and to shoot penalty kicks, I'm just going to say she's it for me. She is my new number one. But of course, they're all, wow, how spoiled are we to go from Brianna Scurry to Hope Solo to Alyssa Nair? We are very, very lucky as soccer fans. All right, people, we have reached that time of the episode. It's the feel good moment of the week, and it's Michelle Kang. Okay. Her investment in women's sports is incredible. She owns 3 women's soccer teams. She bought the Washington Spirit, becoming the first woman of color to be the majority owner of an NWSL club. She also owns a huge women's team in France, Olympique Lyonnais Féminine, nailed it, and one in England, the London City Lionesses. Okay. Then she announced a couple weeks ago that she's creating a nonprofit dedicated to enhancing female athletic performance. She invested $50 million of her own money to, quote, so we can stop training women as if they are simply small men and unlock their true potential. Amazing. And if that's not enough, she just gave the U.S. women's rugby team $4 million to bring home the gold in 2028. Unreal. Okay, did I mention she was also born and raised in South Korea, coming to the United States as a student to pursue the American dream? Okay, she got her MBA, created her own company, made a ton of money, and this is what she's doing with it. She's investing in women's sports. Michelle Kang, hero, role model, total badass, and feel good moment of the week. And that is our show. Thanks, everybody, for all your support. If you can do me a big solid, please go on Apple Podcast, rate the show, review the show, leave some really fun comments. It really is important, and I always forget to mention it. So that would be awesome. And thanks again for supporting the comedy show, for Watch Me Sports Bar. And we'll see you next week. Fans, friends, family, have the best week of your life.